Thank you all for coming this evening. Want to welcome you all to the Bright Freedom Center here at the Heartland Institute. I know there's a lot of new people here tonight. Some of you haven't been into our events before. All of our events are free. We provide sandwiches and drinks for free, but they're all due to the generous donations from everybody that attends. There's a dip jar in the back on the registration table. You can just dip your credit card in and provide us with a donation that helps us continue to do these events every week, for the most part every week. Next week we won't be having an event, so in 2 weeks we are going to have an event, Women in Politics, that you can come back for October 26th. And the following week, November 2nd, Alex Newman will be here talking about his book, Crimes of the Educators. So I want to welcome you back for the next couple of weeks here. Heartland Institute has been around now. We're on our 33rd year. We are a national think tank, but we have a state-based focus instead of a national focus. We have 5 centers here: Constitution Reform, which is our newest, Healthcare, Budget and Tax, Environment and Climate, and the one that's the most important to me and the why you're here tonight is School Reform. Because my take is, if you don't fix education, we're not going to fix anything else that's going on, because our whole next generation after generation is getting corrupted and indoctrinated to believe that government is the answer to everything instead of the free market. So on the left over here, there is a bookshelf. All the books on there are $1 a piece, so you're welcome to buy some books if you need some extra reading. On our table over there, everything is free. You can pick up a copy of our newspapers. There's also materials on your tables, Common Core books, the Common Core math card, rec card, and stuff, and you're welcome to pick up anything. If you know another group that would like us to come speak and talk to me about that. Actually, Cora's got a sign-up sheet on the page as well. If you want to get information from Stop Fed Ed, please feel free to sign up for that. And she has a flyer in the back at the registration table, which I can pass out a little later as well. So you can get more information from Stop Fed Ed as well. Over here also on the left is our library, the Michael Perry Mazur Library. We have about 10,000 volumes now of books from all over religion, economics, environment and climate, education, biographies, even a socialism and Soviet studies section or religion section. Anytime during the day that we're open, you're free to come in here and read the books we have in our library. Actually, on our website, you can actually go look. If you want to look for a specific book, you can actually look on there first before you come over to see if we have the book. So with about 10,000 volumes, we've got a lot of books that most of the libraries around here don't have. So, and if you want to donate books, we're welcome to always take more and add them in. So the goal was, I think somebody said the other day, was we want more books, enough books that we have to start building a second story on the building to house them. So, like right now, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Cora Weber. She is the president of the Illinois chapter of United States Parents Involved in Education, or USPIE. She is a second-generation home educator, a single mom of 6, and for nearly 15 years, she has worked as an advocate for children by promoting awareness of the socialist progressive agenda in government schools. You notice we don't call them public schools, they're actually government schools. Currently, she's developing an initiative to guide and encourage religious institutions to adopt a more central role in the education of America's children. And we have people watching online. With the way this is going to work, Cora's going to come speak for about 20-25 minutes. When she's done, make sure you're writing down questions online. Please ask questions as well, and we'll have a Q&A session at that time. So this time, let's welcome Cora Weber.
Thanks so much, Lenny. It's good to be here. And thank you on behalf of our national USPIE organization for this opportunity to speak. Time and events for the federally controlled system of schooling in our nation are squared. And now we have a very clear three-dimensional picture of what to expect from this system. Parents and educators have found bullying, the LGBT agenda, and school shootings, all against the backdrop of an increasingly poor quality education, to be the product. we are encouraged to embrace a reckless, wild hope that the latest government program will somehow make everything come out all right. However, in a system rooted in the ideology of survival of the fittest, it is intellectual schizophrenia to expect anything less than fruit that is rotten to the core, rotten to the common core. Parents want their children to grow up to be happy, well-adjusted, free-thinking individuals who understand how to make their way in the world. Our present system of education, though, seems more to stifle all these things rather than to let them flourish. To make matters worse, when parents raise questions or concern, they find themselves, by and large, either placated or patronized, and often fall out of their parents' actions and involvement by being persecuted or penalized in the classroom. Across the nation, there is a growing sense of helplessness as we, the parents, the ones who care for our children the most, are not being heard. This is why United States Parents Involved in Education was founded. Our mission is to stop the government overreach in education and provide guidance in restoring local control. In early 2016, we launched the Stop Fed Ed campaign with the intent to completely dismantle the United States Department of Education. I know that sounds ambitious, but my goal in being here tonight is to cast a vision for how we can not only achieve this, but also for how we can use the free market to restore integrity to the American education system. And I thought I had 30 minutes, but Lenny just said I had 20 to 25, so I better move it, right? Anyway. So, yeah, let's see how this works here. Okay. The United States Department of Education began as a cabinet-level agency. It was started in 1867 by President Andrew Jackson for the purpose of collecting statistics on the nation's schools. For 100 years, it was called the Office of Education. In the 1960s, it had a budget of $15,000 and 4 employees. By 1965, the Office of Education had more than 2,100 employees and a budget of $1.5 billion. In 1975, or 1979, it became the United States Department of Education. Oh, sorry. I'll get it. So, in 1979, the United States Department of Education was officially founded, and it had a budget of $11.5 billion. And then to 2015, it's up to $67 billion, which is a 600% increase. And the question is, for what? I mean, just think about that for a second. A 600% increase in spending for the United States Department of Education, and for what? We have stagnant test scores and all the problems I mentioned before. So something is wrong with this picture, as they say. Here's the clear demonstration of that with the Cato Institute did a study, and from 1970 to 2010, you can see we have this astronomical increase in spending, but you know, look at the test scores. It's entirely inefficient. What the program that we have now, states are currently, and a lot of people really don't, and especially common lay people, they they don't understand the breakdown of where the money comes from and what the flow is. States are actually in charge of, or it's their responsibility to provide 100% of their funding. And what's coming from the Department of Education and through programs like the Title I grants are a supplement, okay? And they're providing 9%, and in some cases even less than 9%. So, but yet have 100% control of what's going, the federal government has 100% control of what's going on in the classroom. Now, to me that doesn't add up. And I would like to know why our state leaders aren't standing up and saying, we don't need your little crumbs. So, just curious about that. Oh, it worked even I didn't. ESSA, which is the latest rebranding. A lot of people think, Common Core became so noxious that we were told, okay, we're going to do away with Common Core. But what really happened was we have, 11 programs, everything from, work-related training initiatives to Head Start programs. And they basically just shuffled the terms around a little bit and rebranded it, just put a new name on it, and they called it the Every Student Succeeds Act. But what it is Common Core broken down into 11 different programs that in order for states to get any of the money, they have to design their own programs to fulfill these the qualifications in these 11 programs. And it's impossible to fulfill the programs without keeping your curriculums aligned to the Common Core standards. So really nothing has changed. So why have a Department of Education? Why? We could save taxpayers $67 billion a year. So it might be time to start to consider that. So the ESSA, it heavily incentivizes states to maintain Common Core standards. Assessment of non-cognitive attitudes and behaviors. They're testing kids on grit. And in fact, I get reports every day coming into my email. And today, the latest thing that was really shocking to me was a health survey that they are giving to children, where the kids actually have to answer how many times during the last month did they carry a gun or a knife? How many times did they have sexual intercourse? Did someone drive them in a car while they were consuming alcohol? Did they wear their seatbelt? I don't know. It's just funny to me. So I don't know why they have to test these things. I don't think it's any of their business. What's really alarming, I think, in the ESSA, and what I want to point out most, the no checks on federal power and there's no sunset of a law. This bill gives unprecedented and unconstitutional power to the Secretary of Education. Okay, so what happens when the states, they said, hey, we don't want to do Common Core. Okay, make your own standards, align them to these 11 programs. They send their program that they want to do to the Secretary of Education, and if he doesn't like it, he can veto it and say, no, I don't like your program, too bad for you. That's just completely blowing over states' rights. It's entirely unconstitutional. Let's see. The erosion of parental rights, the erosion of local control, increased federal spending, profiteering, expands government role in child care and distinctive to actively seek employment. By allowing, Goldman Sachs had come in and initiated a program where they said, hey, we're going to take these at-risk students, and if they do our program, then we will prove to the government that we have lowered their chances of being at risk. And what's happening is that the Department of Education is paying private companies to come in and create these programs, which is, to me that kind of blurs the lines with how things are supposed to be in a government situation. The increased spending of the ESSA, between the years of 2017 to 2020 alone, they're going to have a $25 billion per year increase. And then there's a 2% increase every year after that with no sunset on the law. So the cost is just going to go through the roof. And then the one that I find very, I have a lot of people calling me and saying, you know, how can I opt out? What does that look like? And the language of the ESSA is so contradictory because how Congress interpreted it was that everybody would have a chance to opt out of the test. But with this 95% participation formula, the Department of Education is interpreting that no, once the states have had a quota of people opting out, then they cap it. And at 95%, if the states don't reach 95%, then no more children are allowed to opt out. So it's completely, you know, it's a matter of coercion. Here's an example of the latest federal overreach. I don't know if anybody heard about this issue. Yeah. Well, I think I've missed some slides. Yeah. I'm missing 2 slides. I don't know why. I guess these things happen. So the 2 slides that we're missing were actually pictures of the nation's report card, which is called the National Assessment of Educational Progress, otherwise NAEP. And what these things are showing from 2003 to 2015, which is this gamut of time where all these Common Core standards have been implemented. In 8th grade reading and math, kids are being passed at a 33% proficient level. Okay, so out of 100%, 33% proficient. Now, I don't know about you, but when I went to school, if I got 33% on my test, that was called an F. So, you know, it's a failure every time, okay? 4th grade students are passing at a 36% proficiency level in reading and mathematics. So, I'll just read it here. There was a school in Alabama that's just really a particularly devastating testimony of what's happening with Common Core. Alabama had traditionally scored in the mid to low 40s nationally. They revamped their reading and math programs in the mid-2000s and began implementing positive changes. They were up to receiving an A- in reading and a B+ in math. The new programs were working, and they placed Alabama in the mid-20s, with all indicators showing a continuing upward trend into the future. But in 2012, Common Core, or College and Career Readiness Standards, were implemented. And by 2015, just 3 short years, Alabama was 50th in the nation. So they were far worse off than when they started. In both 4th and 8th grades, they were in math and in the mid-40s in reading. So all the progress that they had made had been lost in just 3 short years. So, and then when the educators were taken to task on this, they called it a J-curve factor with no explanation as to why this has happened. So whatever a J-curve factor is, if you ever have a problem and you don't know how to explain what happened, just say it was the J-curve. Okay. So Stop Fed Ed. Stop Fed Ed is a campaign led by parents, taxpayers, and educators committed to ending the U.S. Department of Education. And here is our leadership team, Sherry Few, Alice Lanahan, Karen Lemrow, Tamara Scott. I don't know all these people personally, but I've had the privilege to get to know Sherry a little bit, and she's so tough, and she's just a brilliant leader, and has a great vision for what we can do in our nation. Jan Lennox and Debbie Yo, Teresa Hubbard, Sandy Terosian, Rick Shafton, Michelle Malkin, Alex Newman. I really want to come for that, actually. That's going to be really good. Terrence Moore, Duke Pesta, Peg Luxick, Sandra Stotsky, James Milgram, your very own Joy Pullman, Lily Tang Williams, Gary Thompson, Crystal Swayze, and Ziev Vorman. So we've had some pretty good press. This was an article by Alex featured in the New American. Sorry. And then Michelle Malkin did a great write-up introducing this in the Conservative Review. And there's some press from Breitbart and by Dr. Susan Berry. So we have, so far, 33 chapter presidents all across the nation. And we're running this like a very intentional campaign. We would like to see presidents in every state, regional directors, county coordinators, and precinct captains, because we really are a truly grassroots organization. We're not bureaucrats. We are mothers, fathers, we're parents who are seriously concerned about what's going on with the education system. And, but we don't just want to be another, alarmist sort of grouching about the next thing that's out there. We want to do something about it. And that's why we've started organizing and, planning and really being intentional. So these are the states that we still need leaders. And a quick glance, if you see your state up there, please, let us know, reach out to us. There are, like Lenny said, the contact sheets on the boards. And if you go to our website, you can scroll over the names of the different the state chapters, and the name and contact information of the presidents will appear. So, if you know of someone, say down in Tennessee, and they are, needing some direction, then you can direct them to our website, and they can find who to get in touch with. So what you can do to help. Please go to USPIE and join the movement. We have a Facebook page, and you can follow us on Twitter, and donations, of course. There's a lot of expense into building something like this and get it going. Volunteer with USPIE and get candidates to sign our pledge to end the Department of Education. And we have our little logo there, and we just encourage people to put it up and just get some momentum. So the Department of Education closed. And yes, it looks like I have 5 minutes. So
You can take longer if you need to, it's fine.
okay. So when I am, like I said, I'm a single mom with 6 children. And it's not like I don't have anything else to do. But I'm very much frustrated with what's going on in our school systems, because I feel like it's undermining all the values that we hold dear as Americans. And But when I'm just a common person. I homeschool my kids, and so, we read a lot of books, but they're not all of, intense policy kind of stuff, not yet. Anyways, we're getting there. And so, I joined up with USPIE last year about this time and started to really dive into all this. And I'm really getting an education as I go. But a lot of it's just overwhelming to me. I don't have hours to sit around and explore all the ins and outs of, the latest and greatest that Washington has to offer. And I feel like that is, I do talk to a lot of people, and I feel like people feel very overwhelmed. Like the common people feel very overwhelmed when it comes to the issue of education. They see their children sitting around the table crying because it doesn't make sense. They don't know how to help them when they tell them that 2 + 2 = 4, and they go back to school and their teacher said it was wrong because they didn't do it the method that the teacher wanted them to follow. And I feel like it was just this huge labyrinth. Everywhere you turn, one turn leads into another turn, and where do you begin? And that just nurtures that sense of helplessness that so many parents are feeling. And that caused me to consider, it's like, how in the world do you escape a labyrinth? And we just happen to have this Greek mythology book for children, and it was very curious to me when I looked up the story of the labyrinth. And there was a man imprisoned in the labyrinth named Daedalus, and he was imprisoned with his son named Icarus. And here they are, they want to get out. They know that if they somehow manage to make it through this crazy maze, when they get to the door, it's going to be heavily guarded. So what did they end up doing? They made wings and flew out. And you know something? I know for me, and I know for an increasing number of people, I think that we have found that it's just time to stop playing the game. It's just time to fly out of the labyrinth. And that's really where my heart comes into play. I try to provide guidance, and I get a lot of people, what can I do? How can I homeschool? And I think that, as I said, time and events for our federal system, they're squared. They've come to full fruit, and we really do see the product. And my question is, why are we letting bureaucrats in Washington dictate to us? Why are we letting them define the terms of what an education looks like? And I think that's where the free market comes into play. I think if people rise up and say, I know what's best for my child, and just start taking action, things will fall into place. The Department of Education is an unconstitutional entity, okay? The 10th Amendment said that all the things expressly not given rights that were not in the Constitution were reserved for the states and the people. And nowhere in the Constitution are you going to find about a public education system like that. Now, I'm not against education, please don't get me wrong. I'm not going there, but it's an unconstitutional system. So I think it's time for people to rise up and start defining the terms. God has stamped liberty on the hearts of every child in this nation. And the system that we have currently is not a system that's going to nurture that liberty. It's not going to create free-thinking individuals that can bring greater progress to America. It's a system that is it's inherently flawed. It's based on a humanistic Prussian system that is socialistic in its nature. And the fruit that is going to come from that are socialist children. And that's what we're seeing nowadays. So a lot of times we go around and we play this game called Capture the Flag. And really what we have here, we have a Parthenon beast matrix. And it's flying all these flags. And at the top, you know, we see bullying, we see transgender junk, we see Common Core. When I was a kid, it was called Goals 2000. That's when my parents got involved. And they had us going door to door, passing out flyers and all this other stuff. And then let's see, you know, it changed to school to work, Goals 2000, outcome-based education. I don't know. I don't even know. It's become, you know, it was Common Core when I started to get back involved, and now it's ESSA. And so, you know, here we are. They're constantly putting up these flags, school shootings and bullying and all the other things you want to see. And we're putting all of our artillery, all of our fight into going after those things. But I think we're missing the point. The system it needs to be aligned with the principles that never change, not the next system that the bureaucrats are trying to push on people. So, yeah, I think the step for United States parents involved in education, we're working to dismantle the Department of Education, and I think that's a step in the right direction. And we're just going to keep moving forward, but I think the biggest change is going to come as we start working with children to just change the ideology, to change the heart of people, and to have them rise up to take personal responsibility. I saw that Heartland's logo for this year was Freedom Rising, and I think that's the heart of what we want to do. So, yes.
If you have a question, please raise your hands. Tim and Billy are going to come around and we'll alternate back and forth to make sure we get as many questions asked as we can. We may also have some questions online. I know, actually I was going to make sure everybody knows, we actually have up in Appleton, Wisconsin tonight, there's a group up there that's doing a live stream video up there, and they have several people in the audience actually watching this from Appleton, Wisconsin tonight. So, because they didn't want to come all the way down, so. All right, Jim had the first question here. We'll get here, and then Nancy's going to be Oh, you've got. Yeah, real quick, as long as it's quick when we get there. So, okay, Jim.
Cora, can you help me, since you're deeply involved in homeschooling, what kind of support services are available to homeschoolers?
I don't think there are any state and federal services available, if that's what you mean. But what encourages me with the homeschool movement is that it's a local movement. The support that comes is from the local church or friends and family or the local teacher who says, hey, I've got some spare time. I can teach a class at your homeschool co-op. So right there is turning the tide just by virtue of the fact that it's a family, you know, it's a family schooling organization because it's homeschooling. And that's as local as you can get. So
do you have math and science people that are available to supplement what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that's really where what I try to do is provide access to people when they come to me for whether they're interested in starting a Christian school or you know, starting some kind of homeschool cooperative or just you know, whatever. So there's some different ways of doing it, but around the country, for example, in Virginia, they're actually even offering graduate level courses in all the sciences. So yes, the resources are out there, and with technology, we could really be defining the terms of what a good education looks like. And all we have to do is take initiative.
Yeah, to quickly add on to that, there's a bunch of co-ops up here in Lake County and stuff that actually are big enough where the parents basically rotate day by day. They even have their own sports teams that play against all the local Christian schools and stuff. And there's a bunch of online forums where people can ask and talk about. And I believe almost every state now has a homeschool conference at some point during the year to also be a resource and help as well. So, Nancy?
Just a couple observations. I was very upset when it was Lamar Alexandra in the Senate who was the one who pushed what he said was not Common Core, but it was a completely new program that was much better. And of course it got through, and it's nothing more than Common Core.
Yeah.
And another thing that is very telling is that when I was down at Eagle Forum in St. Louis just a couple months ago, I heard Sam Clovis speak, and he is the senior policy advisor for Donald Trump. And he said the first thing Donald Trump is going to do when he comes into office is to dismantle the Department of Education.
I hope he does. If Lord willing, if he's elected, I hope that he follows through on that. And Lamar Alexander is currently, he's trying to backtrack. He knows he's been caught with his hand in the cookie jar. And so he's actually going to release a bill that would stop the unconstitutional power that the secretary has, but he's kind of sitting on it right now because all the Democrats said, well, we're not going to pass that. So, curious.
Yeah, online, the group up in Wisconsin it mentioned Freedom Project Academy does online and support of homeschoolers and stuff all across the country as well. So, Tim, back here.
So if my child was in public education, would they have the same opportunity in terms of a career compared to a child that was in public schooling or Christian schooling?
Well, I think that's one thing, and I try to, a lot of homeschoolers think that the Common Core standards and all of this going on doesn't affect them, and I just want to wake them up because it really does. And what's going on here is a complete limiting of access. If you are not trained in the Common Core method, now, never mind that it's it's defunct. It's proven that the kids that are graduating are actually 2 years behind what you and I would have had for the high school standards. But if it's all about a method, okay? It's not so much of these high academic standards. It's a method of education that is training children to be relativistic and socialistic in their thinking. So, yes, they're going, no. Well, personally, I think you can make opportunity, okay? I don't think anything is going to hold somebody back. If God's given them a vision on their heart, nothing's going to stop them. But because they're aligning the testing for college entrance with the Common Core standards, kids who are educated in the traditional way, like my children are, probably won't be able to pass the tests. Not because they're ignorant or poorly educated, just because they haven't been educated in that method. And so, yeah, it's going to limit who has access to higher education, and therefore the people who, become the elite, the leaders in social, political, industrial arenas are going to have been educated in this socialistic model. So, yeah, it's not good.
So, anybody else have questions out here? And while raising your hand, I'm not sure if you know, the CLT test and the Vector ARC are both going to be college entrance exams that are being beta tested that will be pretty much go live soon. And they will, oops, it's playing you. So, they are going to be non-Common Core aligned and will be paper and pencil, so they're not going to get into all the data collection and stuff. So there are going to be some opportunities where the free market is actually coming up with solutions to circumvent what is happening right now already. So right here in the green over here.
So since Illinois is a Common Core state, as a parent who's homeschooling, how do you have to test your children on like an annual, or how often, and how is that testing? Is that all Common Core aligned?
Each state is different. If you want to know the standards for your state, you need, I always go to hslda.org. It's a Homeschool Legal Defense Association. And you can just click on your state and it'll tell all the laws. Illinois is a very lenient state. And so you don't have to, there are, standards for high school math, like you have to have, 3 years of mathematics, so many years of science, like 4 years of English and, different arts. So it's just a matter of your kid has to be in school 180 days. You have to be, make sure that they're educated in these fields, and they leave it to the parents. Not all states are like that. Some states are very strict. You have to be taking the, the SAT and all that, and in those cases, it would be Common Core aligned, and yeah, so.
Yeah, make sure you keep your hands up slide till I recognize you so we know who's going to be next and stuff here. So next one will be still right over here. And whoever's going to be next, go ahead and raise your hand so we can be prepared.
I'm curious, just organizationally, how USPIE fits in with other academic reform organizations, and what specific goals do you have? I mean, the goal that you've outlined in the U.S. Department of Education certainly is one that we can all subscribe to, but what does that mean? What specifically do people work to do? Is it grassroots lobbying, or is it raising awareness, or what do you see the specific goal as?
Thank you for asking, because I'd actually written that down, and I think I might have glossed over it or missed it somehow. Yes, we do like to work with other, like Truth in American Education, Heartland, and just, hey, we're all on the same, we're all working for the same goal here. So of course we need each other. We can pull from each other's strengths. And, but like I said, we are trying to build a very intentional network. And then, we've done a lot, like with the Candidates Pledge, getting in their face about what's going on and calling them to the carpet, holding their feet to the fire. And then we're, leave your kid out from school day is something that we're sponsoring. And so just little initiatives like that. But I think really what we're trying to do is, and I myself know that why I'm personally involved is because I really want to see, yeah, I get it, stop Fed Ed, but then what? And if we have any hope of making long-term change in this country, we have to work on changing the hearts of people. We know kids that are educated hours and hours a day, hours and hours a week, they spend more time in the school than they do at their home or their church. They are going to adopt the ideologies that they are being taught in the classroom. And we have to, the only way to achieve lasting reform is to go back to our roots. And America was a nation built upon laws. I was so frustrated, oh my goodness, in the debate. And I loved how Donald Trump ripped Hillary on this one when she said, well, it's a good thing he's not in charge of the law. You imagine that. And he's, and of course everybody laughs when he says, well, yeah, you'd be in jail. But just think of the premise of what she said. And this is what her thinking is. She said, someone like him in charge of the laws. Now, wait a minute. This country was founded on the laws. The laws are in charge of everyone. People are not in charge of the law. Because the law is all above us is why you and I have freedom. And, that's why America came into being, is because the kings in Europe were totalitarian, okay? And people had no rights. Common man had no rights. And so in order to achieve lasting reform in this country, we have to get back to the foundation. And that is where the law is at the heart of what children, every sphere of society is subject to that. And children need to be educated with that as a basis for their understanding of things. I hope I'm not getting too long, but I'm reading George Orwell's 1984 to my kids now. And maybe you think that makes me like a weirdo or something, but and their ages 8 to 12. So yeah, I take it seriously. But it really stood out to me how he said in there so concisely. He said, freedom is the freedom to say that 2 + 2 = 4. Now, how profound is that? And it's also, isn't it ironic that one of the things that they're, this math in the Common Core is so warped? It really is a method. They're not teaching a principle that you can apply to all of life, okay? And so that's that. When I say get back to the law, what I mean is educating children based on principles that no matter where life takes them, they can always make proper judgments. They have a foundation of understanding. The arts of liberty, don't get me going about how Common Core, with the attack on the literature-based education. I mean, when these kids are graduating, the text, literature text is something like 25%, or, so it's all math and science, fact-based, okay, stuff that you memorize. Whereas, what's the point? What's the big deal about literature text? Well, when you teach a child literature, you teach them the stories. They learn who they are and where they came from and where they want to go, where they're going, okay? It's what makes us Americans. It's what makes us who we are, okay? So when you take away the stories, you're taking away that sense of sovereignty, okay? And it's a lot easier to make slaves out of people when that's been robbed from them, okay? And then they become what? Oh yeah, I know my math and science, I can be a worker. So, and that's a whole other topic too, so.
Bruno?
The first thing I wanted to ask is, does the homeschooling movement, in the networks that you're in and the work that you do, has it looked at all at coming together and networking to create one repository of data, if not data, then at least curriculum, things that have worked, ways that people teach it, and then have you looked at all at the testing method, which is now starting to take place across the country in various different places, where instead of these large single-year giant tests that people take, they are essentially being given badges, or similar to the Boy Scouts. You get a badge in mathematics, some piece of mathematic curriculum. And the reason I'm asking that is for all the people who are worried about how to circumvent the Common Core, there's a great deal of evidence, and if you think about it theoretically, the most effective way around that is to go to a badge-based or a competency-based system where the child demonstrates competencies and then just simply puts those on their website or on their grade sheet or whatever, and everywhere they go, doesn't matter what college, what apprenticeship, what anything, there exists a badge, a competency badge that says, yes, they know this, and you cannot take that away from them. You cannot untest it. You cannot do anything through the SAT or anything what Coleman comes up with. So has your movement, has your group looked into that as a possibility? And the reason I'm asking that is I would suggest to everyone in this room, when we're looking for that 10-second soundbite, or 30-second soundbite of what we're really trying to do, whether it's your organization, Heartland, or anything like that, is that we are trying to do to public education what Uber did to the cab cartels.
I think that's the future. And I don't know specifically about the badge-based testing system that you talked about, but I think personal responsibility is what will take us to the next level. Okay, the model of education that we have now, and everybody, I know I'm speaking to the choir, but it's a Prussian system that was designed to create, soldier and worker class people, citizens, compliant citizens. And, why can't we, with how far we've come with, technology and understanding of liberty and, all these thousands of books, why can't we design our own models? This is something that's actually pretty close to home to me. I think that we are on the verge of, we can develop an entirely new system. There does need to be a system, because there is a great need. You know, there's always going to be parents who are lazy or, you know, for whatever reasons, that they're going to need help. I'm taking this message to the churches first because I think they have an infrastructure. I mean, some of the stuff that's coming down the pike is, you know, a lot of teachers are going to be losing their jobs because they really are just irrelevant. Children can be educated on computers, and the teacher in the classroom will be there to keep order and just kind of be a proctor sort of a thing. So, you know, a lot of teachers will be out of a job, and I don't think they realize this, or they would probably start to kind of get more in the game. But it is true. There's a lot more efficient models, and so we're really at a place where, you know, why don't we sit down and say, how can we, you know, we want to make free thinkers. Make people who take personal responsibility for their lives. We want to create a nation of entrepreneurs, you know, leaders. And it's not too hard to figure out how to, what kind of education that creates that. And so then design our own models. I would really like to see a revival of the cottage schools, which were started by in the 1800s by a lady named Charlotte Mason. And they fit so well. As a single mom, that was my first dilemma, is how am I going to, you know, I knew I wanted to homeschool, but how am I going to do this? You know, now that I'm also considering, you know, finances and all these other things. And Charlotte Mason, it was a method of education that just, it fits with family life. And kids really, educations, they're more apt to take personal responsibility for their own education. And that's what I want for my kids. I don't know about you, but, you know, it would be very sad for me if when my kid gets through 12th grade that they throw the books down and say, I'm never opening another book. Okay, that's not how we're going to preserve our liberties. So, anyway.
Oh, quick question here too. How can everybody here actually get involved and actually help you a lot more and help push this movement forward?
Well, like I said, if you, there's sign-up sheets on the table, and, you know, go to USPIE.org and click on Join the Movement, and that'll kind of direct you through steps. And, you know, we really do want to create this grassroots network and just start taking back our territory. So, and then I think people need to start talking. Just start talking to your friends and neighbors. Don't be shy. And, you know, just start speaking the truth, because people have to change in their thinking before we can create any lasting results.
Yep. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, over here.
You started to go to this, but we kind of got diverged from it. But so you accomplished the goal one day of ending the Department of Education. What?
Well, I think okay. I think ultimately what we need to see, well, okay, I don't know about you, but if you kind of, the Obama's administration track record has been an increasing involvement in every sphere of American society. You know, almost fascist-like takeovers. I mean, I don't know what business they had bailing out automakers and banks, and, you know, then they took over the healthcare system, and now it's a complete top-down education. So the ultimate goal is to get more power back, local control in the states, states' rights. I think we need to revisit the anti-federalist papers, because we did the federalist route, and this is where we are today. You know, it's been a great 200-year experiment, and so, or however long, and, you know, I don't know. It's just states' rights and more local control will go a long way to solving a lot of these problems.
Does anybody else have a question? Another one back here.
Is there anyone in place that already has written any kind of literature that's willing to provide that to children to kind of kickstart it, as long as there's like facilities that are provided, or maybe even teachers that are willing to give their time, that will kind of like kickstart them in that direction?
Yeah, I think there's a lot, like in my, well, okay, let me backtrack. I checked into, just because of increasing responsibilities, what it would cost me with 6 children to put my kids in the Christian school that is closest to me. And it would be $20,000 a year. Okay, I don't have that kind of money. And I think most people don't have that kind of money. And so, that really put in me a vision to, what if there was sort of a revival of schooling facilities, through churches or, private groups that provided very low cost education. It really does not cost. The government says, oh, yeah, we need at least $8,000 per year or whatever it is, probably 10 or 12 by now. I don't know. They ask for all these thousands of dollars. It does not cost that much to educate children well. And there's actually, that got me to looking around and really trying to build, and I want to build a network for people to where they can have more immediate access when they want a better education for their kids. And yes, there are churches that are offering free Christian school to children. There's a church 1 hour from me that has a beautiful school, like 200 children. And if you become a member of that church, all of your children, no matter if you have 2 or 10, can go there for 10% of your adjusted gross income. So that right there would provide tremendous access. And, so I'm using this as a model when I talk to people, that there are ways. We just have to, put our thinking cap on. So.
Yeah, there's also a lot of free resources online. You can go take any class at MIT, Stanford, and part of the Yale courses, and online for free right now. So there's a ton of stuff out there that you can do for free. And actually, one of the homeschool statistics, students where the parents spend more than $600 end up at the 86th percentile. Students who spend less than $600 per child for their education, for homeschooling, 83 percentile. There's almost no difference, so the money isn't the factor. And so there's stuff out there. It's just imagine, we have to get everybody together and looking for it and helping people find it, because that's really the issue. A lot of people don't feel like they can find it.
Yeah.
All right. Question here in the back here, so.
I think you touched on a really important thing, which is the churches. And we need the churches to wake up and realize what the public schools are doing to our children. Mm-hmm. And I'm heavily involved in what's going on in District 211 with the transgender. I'm part of that lawsuit. And we tried to get the churches involved and woken up to that issue. And there were 3 churches that were willing to partner with us. Only one that was really, that's strongly a partner with us. And that's where these churches are failing our kids, unfortunately.
Yeah. And, I didn't tell the whole story of Daedalus and Icarus escaping the labyrinth. How they escaped was they asked for wax and feathers, and they made wings out of wax and feathers. Now, when they flew out, Daedalus warned Icarus, his son, not to fly too close to the sun, or the wax would melt. But in the exhilaration of flying, Icarus, in his pride, flew towards the sun, and indeed his wings melted and he perished in the sea. And I think because I'm finding that too, and it's very discouraging. I think the problem is because there is that humanistic pride that underscores, and this happened to a lot, there was a huge movement in the 1970s to start Christian schools all over this country. But a lot of those Christian schools have just become, more schools for the rich kids. And, I think pride has gotten in there, and I think humanistic ideas. Unfortunately, I think that 90% of the churches today are teaching humanistic religion expressed in theological terms. And so, they need to repent. From a Christian perspective, I say, well, the church needs to repent. But as a Christian who's going to do something about it, I'm going to take action and do what I can to provide stuff. And, eventually there's going to be people wake up. But yeah, I think that, that they're so steeped in the humanistic ideologies, they've become kind of self-help entertainment centers almost, just the other social club in town. And so, yeah, I mean, and it's very discouraging, but just keep pressing forward because I think truth, it does prevail. So,
Any final questions? Not, let's give Cora a round of applause.
thank you, Linda.
Before y'all leave here, this book's on your table, this Common Core book. It is the updated version from Joy Pullman, who is on their board, but she's also a senior fellow here at the Heartland Institute. You feel free to take copies. If you want copies for your neighbors, please let me know. This is one of the things Heartland does, the reason we continually ask for donations to help us be able to publish these and be able to give them away to people to inform people. The rack cards on your table the same way. They're there for you to take, to give to your friends and neighbors. It's an easy way to start a conversation to somebody that you may not know or did you know well, but they don't know the issue. And you can start talking to them in that way and kind of open it up so they can see. The math problem on there is a third grade math problem. It's a great entree to a whole conversation about what's wrong with Common Core. And as Cora said, even when Common Core is gone, the government's going to bring the next thing right down the line. And we've got to be prepared because the bureaucracy always wants to control. And we have to find the solution through the free market and keep people informed so when the next thing comes, we're ready for it and prepared for it to be able to fight it. So I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to remind you on Wednesday night, October 26th, is our Women in Politics, and it will be featuring Illinois Lieutenant Governor Evelyn Sanguinetti. There will also be state reps and state senators from both Illinois and Wisconsin coming in. And on November 2nd, Alex Newman will be here with talking about his book, Crimes of the Educators. So when you sign up for that, make sure you go ahead and buy the books. And make sure the last event we ended up running out of books because we didn't buy enough. If you buy them in advance, you'll make sure you get one, and then we know how many we also need to buy as well. And you can come talk to Alex and get your book and stuff signed from there. And don't forget, if you feel like it, in the dip jar, please donate to help us be able to continue with these events. And I'm free to stick around. On your table also is a Join Us paper. If you want to get our publications, if you're new, you want to get our publications, one of our newspapers, sign up for that, more information on our events. There's also a survey there. If you'd like to tell us how we did tonight, if there's anything you'd like us to improve, if there's people you would like to see come up here and speak, please let us know. Fill that out. You can leave it on your table or hand it to one of the staff members. We'll be sticking around here, and I'm sure Cora will probably be here if you have a few more questions and stuff as well. And let's thank Cora one more time. Thank you, and thank you all for coming.